Welcome to our documentary.
I'm Robin,
And I'm Sophie.
and this is World War II, the war that changed women's lives forever.
Women,
Mothers,
caregivers.
workers,
Before World War II, women mainly resided in the home, caring for children, cleaning the house, and cooking food for their husbands.
that was life for them.
Few women worked, and when they did, the jobs that they had were considered feminine jobs, such as secretaries or teachers.
But the war changed everything.
In early September of 1939, Nazi Germany invaded Poland, leading Great Britain and France to declare war on Germany, starting World War II.
Later, during 1941, the attack on Pearl Harbor occurred, causing the U.S. to enter the war.
The Allies were fighting against the Axis powers.
And men from all over the world were drafted to fight in the military.
Those men also held jobs, so as one might guess, there were many open spots that needed to be filled in order to keep the economy as stable as possible.
Women, of course, stepped up to the role, setting off a long-lasting effect that is seen in our day-to-day life.
From fashion and feminism, all the way to the politics of work.
The work women did in World War II affected their clothing and empowered women in the workplace and in day-to-day life ever since.
World War II was influential in women's work lives. The majority were called to work.
Prior to the war, only about a quarter of women held jobs, though they were expected to stop once they got married or had kids.
These ideas had to be put aside when World War II began, as many women who obtained jobs during the war had children.
High society and many men looked down upon the women who worked.
It was stated that they were lowering their status to do so. Others believed that working took perfectly good job opportunities for men.
But between 1940 and 1945, over 5 million women entered empty jobs, mostly ones that were previously exclusive to men.
Although they got paid significantly less, the amount of money women were awarded was enticing.
As financial independence was something that most women had never experienced, so women took any opportunities they were provided, and joining the military was no exception.
Over 350,000 women joined the military during World War II. They made important repairs and flew planes, among other things.
More jobs occupied by women were that of chemists and engineers, and many even helped develop the atomic bomb.
Still, some didn't like the idea of treating women as equals, causing extreme discrimination based off both gender and race.
Vivian Abelon, a female World War II veteran, noted that women weren't even allowed ranks in the military, for they were reserved for men.
I was PFC. Back then, we didn't get rank. I was working as a staff sergeant, but the ranks were for the fellas.
The U.S.'s decision to join the war came with many implications, such as restrictions on food, shoes, and clothes, and with women working in factories, welding, manufacturing, and rations, outfits with excess fabrics and accessories were a no-go.
This led fashion to be essentially frozen in time, since it was hard for clothing to develop under such extreme conditions.
As shown in this news bulletin from the time, classic feminine dress from the years before had no place at work, whereas more masculine, and even men's clothing in general, was completely acceptable and necessary.
A suitable and safe work outfit for most women in traditionally male-operated jobs was comprised of jeans or any other sturdy pants, closed-toed, low-heel shoes, thick upper clothing such as a leather jacket, and pinned-up hair. This would be leaving behind many unsustainable women's outfits for an occupation in a factory.
Although the articles of clothing previously mentioned were a sort of unspoken requirement, women who didn't work in factories or in manual labor positions would still wear more feminine outfits. As time moved on, though, suits and more masculine clothing became a trend everywhere.
Personal accounts and papers from the war say the same.
For example, Rosemary Warburton said to the New York Times in March of 1943, "Daytime clothes have become a very simple formula for me, for I devote most of my day to war work. A dark suit is practically my uniform. I find that I can change its aspect with blouses. When I don't wear a suit, I wear a plain dress."
She continues on to speak about how one only needs simple garments and few accessories to add a bit of flair.
Another woman, Catherine Lampard, states that the clothing which she must wear for work safety is much the same as that of her pre-war clothes, less some simple items such as skirts, slacks, and a smock to protect clothing during the job.
Fanny Hurst and Pamela Zink tell the Times about how a woman should be dressed in such a way that is smart and seems powerful to assert her place.
Multiple accounts from other women in the polls have statements saying that going simpler is more acceptable in light of the lack of materials and patriotism by thinking about war efforts as well as the conditions that the outfits would be worn in.
In short,
Simplicity
and masculinity
are the two main looks a woman was trying to incorporate and achieve in her work dress.
This is shown further on as ads in the same paper show articles of clothing that still heavily present the woman's femininity, as well as having almost every item with details that would suggest a woman's masculine side.
One ad in particular, depicting a work suit, markets by saying, "This spring, your tailored suit will be the most important thing in your wardrobe, so why not indulge in the luxury of a suit with the distinguished Milgram label?"
Notice that they specifically mentioned how much of a staple a work suit is in people's lives.
This is because women started to dress more powerfully, which in majority cases meant to dress with some masculine touches.
And although this had not originated during World War II,
World War II made women dress more with masculinity and functionality in mind, and it caused them to think about what image they wanted to portray and the implications of how they dressed.
in Annette McDermott's words, "The progress was slow over the next 2 decades. Serving their country, in the military, and at home empowered women to fight for the right to work in non-traditional jobs for equal pay and for equal rights in the workplace and beyond."
Sometimes that started with fashion.
Decrees issued from the inner sanctums of the world's most prestigious fashion houses aren't clicking. Women aren't paying attention to sweeping generalizations in fashion. They're approaching fashion subjectively. They're wearing clothes that suit them. For once, women are captains of their own ships.
The Santa Maria Times wrote in 1969.
Women were choosing clothes that not only suited their interests, but also what made the message they wanted to get across clear.
Women's fashion, even after World War II, when there were many breakthroughs for fashion and feminism, was dictated by the male view.
During the second wave of the feminist movement in America, which was the 1960s through the 1990s, women were still continuing their fight for respect in the workplace.
Day-to-day clothing was something they needed to fight for.
Men were not only dictating the amount of pay, but also the style of dress women were to wear at work.
Women were sick of it.
And as seen in history, fashion can prove a point.
And deliver a message for people.
And women utilized that, wearing longer skirts with more masculine cuts and feminine details for the time, in opposition to the hyper-feminine aesthetic majority of media had pushed women into.
Overall, women who wanted to make a difference dressed as the men did, slowly losing their femininity as time went on just to get respect.
Dr. Adrienne R. Pinky puts it in perspective this way.
Our society values masculine energy. We, women, are very performance-oriented and are often focused on leadership. Most Americans spend the majority of our lives in our masculine energy.
And it's been that way since women started fighting for rights, respect, and more.
In our attempt to be seen as equals, we, in some aspects, have become one and the same with how we must present to be seen as powerful.
Making a quick internet search on how to dress powerfully as a woman, majority of the results are images of women outfitted in traditionally masculine pieces.
This is because having masculine features, looking, or even acting in a masculine way has shown for years to assert some sort of dominance.
Women, in turn, have been taught that becoming masculine and shedding their feminine features or behaviors in presence of important people is the only way to be respected by men.
They had to make changes throughout time to obtain and continue it to occupy the jobs they acquired during the Second World War.
And we wouldn't be the same without it.
We wouldn't see pantsuits or blazers, and we wouldn't see women being in positions of power, such as engineers or CEOs, if they hadn't adapted and found ways to show their strength.
Still, society as a whole is yet to find the balance of dressing hyper-feminine without being looked down upon, immature, or granted less respect by the men surrounding them.